In the National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee has settled on a 4-day schedule to hear and determine the fate of 4 petitions seeking the ouster of 4 IEBC commissioners. The committee, chaired by Tharaka MP George Murugara, will from tomorrow hear each petition separately and give Juliana Cherera, Irene Masit, Francis Wanderi and Justus Nyang'aya an opportunity to individually respond to a litany of allegations leveled against them by the petitioners. Now, the committee had until Tuesday to submit its request to the House, but Speaker Moses Wetangula opened a window for a time extension should the 14-day period be insufficient. And as our very own Francis Gachuri reports, the electoral body could be left without commissioners for a period should the National Assembly recommend the removal of the embattled commissioners, dubbed the Cherera Four.
After a stormy sitting Tuesday morning, the 15-member Justice and Legal Affairs Committee in the National Assembly reached a consensus Wednesday morning on the process and modalities of handling 4 petitions seeking the removal of IEBC Vice Chair Juliana Cherera and Commissioners Irene Masit, Francis Wanderi and Justus Nyang'aya. The 4 commissioners' jobs are on the line after the Republican Party, Dennis Ndumbi, Geoffrey Langat and Owor Steve Jerry petitioned for their removal on grounds of gross misconduct, abuse of office, violation of the Constitution, and taking sides in the August 9th presidential race. They are also accused of conspiring with national security top officials to alter the election results in favor of Azimio la Umoja presidential contender Raila Odinga and trigger a runoff. The 4 embattled commissioners, dubbed the Cherera Four, walked out on IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati, accusing him of Lone Ranger tactics in the process of verifying the presidential results, allegations that were dismissed by the Supreme Court in its verdict on the consolidated presidential election petition. The Justice and Legal Affairs Committee will first hear the Republican Party's petition and allow for cross-examination of the petitioners. The second petitioner, Dennis Ndumbi, will also have an hour to prosecute his petition, followed by a cross-examination session. On Friday, petitioners Geoffrey Langat and Owor Steve Jerry will be allocated an hour each to make their submissions, followed by a similar amount of time for cross-examination by lawyers representing the 4 commissioners. The committee will then break for the weekend and resume sittings on Monday. Cherera will have an hour to respond to the allegations leveled against her, and the petitioners, through their lawyers, will also have an opportunity to question her. The afternoon session will be allocated to Masit to defend her job, and an hour later be cross-examined. On Tuesday, Wanderi and Nyang'aya will have their day to deal with allegations made against them by the petitioners. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula had on Tuesday directed the committee to ensure justice for the petitioners and the respondents.
The committee must refrain from prosecuting the petitions on behalf of the petitioners. Instead, it shall allow each petitioner to present their case and permit the affected commissioners to present their responses and thereafter consider whether a ground for removal has been disclosed or not.
The committee had 14 days from Tuesday last week to handle the 4 petitions and submit a report to the House for the plenary to make a final determination on the fate of Cherera, Masit, Wanderi and Nyang'aya. An extension is imminent.
The committee may, if it becomes necessary, seek an extension of the foregoing timelines to enable it to comprehensively interrogate the petitions and report to the House.
Sources in the National Assembly indicating that the majority side in the House was keen on conclusion of the ouster process before members of Parliament proceed on Christmas recess. If the House finds merit in the petitions, it will recommend to the President to establish a tribunal or tribunals to hear and determine the fate of the 4 commissioners. They will then be suspended pending the conclusion of the process. This would essentially leave the electoral body without commissioners, as Chairman Wafula Chebukati and Commissioners Boya Molu and Abdi Yakub Gulie exit the stage in January at the lapse of their 6-year term at Anniversary Towers. Francis Gachuri, Citizen TV.